Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Wednesday race of the day, which of course takes place at Saratoga for their first Wednesday of this 2025 meet. And the feature race goes as the final race on that Wednesday card. The ninth is the Suzie O'Kane for the 3-year-old New York bred fillies going the 1 mile and the 16th distance on the inner turf course with the rails at 18 feet. And Mike, hopefully we get on a bit more turf racing this week than we did opening week at Saratoga.
Pretty rough start there for the first 4 days. Hopefully the weather will turn around. I know that the forecast has looked a little bit iffy even for this initial opening full week up there, but maybe we'll get lucky this time, David.
With this being the Wednesday race of the day, do note you can get free past performances for this race. Check that out on the race of the day page at DRF.com. Free classic, formulator, and time form USPPs. Mike, I found this to be a pretty competitive race to handicap. I had trouble pegging a morning line for this race because got a lot of horses coming in from different directions, some dropping out of open company, some moving up out of allowance races. The number 2, Mommy's Turn, has shown a lot of ability since she's gotten on the turf, but we'll talk about it more when we get to her, talking about the individual contenders. But trip is going to be key for this potential favorite.
Yeah, she's going to need the right trip, and she's going to need to, at some point here in her career, David, learn how to sort of behave herself out there on the track and learn how to be a professional racehorse because she's not that right now. Seems like she's got some talent. So we'll see if she finally puts it all together. Chad's got 2 in here. Our Chad's got that one, and he's got another one that they used to have that is in here now for a different trainer who I think is a really, really nice horse second off the layoff.
You'll note 10 of these are entered for the turf, the number 11 K Cup. She is the only MTO in this field. Hopefully she doesn't get to participate, but if this race does come off the turf, she would be awfully formidable. Let's take a look at the time form US pace projector for this race. And Mike, I'll note that the number 4 Blossoming Erudite is entered back on Friday at Saratoga in an allowance turf sprint. So if the connections run there instead and she comes out of this race, it does remove a key pace player and could put a horse like the number 7 Marvelous Madison on the front end. She's certainly shown speed sprinting. Also the number 1 Grayson Grid is a horse who has shown speed on occasion.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see if they get aggressive from the rail with that horse. Marvelous Madison stretching out here for her second start as a 3-year-old. I think you'll probably get a little bit more of an aggressive ride this time. Listen, David, they brought her back in an open stakes race sprinting. I thought it may not look like it on paper. I thought that was a pretty good pace, though, that she was trying to keep after. And it probably worked against her in just her first start back.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Grayson Grid. And she's one of 3 in a row coming out of the same race that we'll talk about at the top of our discussion of the contenders. And Mike, she was third, narrowly beaten third in a first level allowance race on June 12th that those 3 are coming out of. And I thought she probably got the best trip of the 3. She was up close to the pace, just visibly got tired at the end, was drifting a little bit. But at least it was a step in the right direction from her 3-year-old debut, where it kind of felt like she was ridden as if she needed that first start off the layoff. So good to see her move forward. We'll see if she can take another step forward, third off the layoff.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's really all about for her. I'm kind of with you, just going back through that common race there in the middle of June. I just felt like she had a really good trip in that race, and I couldn't really find a way to give her any kind of a real excuse there for not winning. To me, she just wasn't good enough, but it was a move in the right direction. I still have a tough time figuring out how good I think she is, David. I can't say that I'm thrilled with any of her turf races so far.
The number 2, Mommy's Turn, was the runner-up in that common June 12th race that 3 horses are exiting. And she was the beaten favorite in there, Mike, but we talked about it earlier, trip being the key factor for her. And she's been a horse that's hard to work out the right trip for because she is difficult to ride. She wants to pull in the early stages, gets rank, and that's been the case both when she broke her maiden and actually overcame all of that to win in her turf debut. But then last time, it looked like it caught up with her, and maybe that's why she was narrowly defeated in that race. But it's obvious there's talent here, just a matter of whether or not Jose Lezcano can keep a lid on her early.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like she can really run. I mean, her debut, she didn't do, pretty much. She didn't really do that much right first time out. But boy, once they set her down and she was clear in the stretch, she got a little bit of room to run. She really ran in there. I mean, she feels like a horse who has some talent. Last time it ultimately worked out for her, David, and she had, I guess you could say through the stretch anyway, she had every chance to win. And she didn't, but leading up to that, I mean, she was just her own worst enemy. And it feels like that's the kind of stuff that can really cost a horse, especially a young horse like her.
Let's take a look at the replay of that June 12th race that we've been discussing as we move on to the number 3 Trail of Gold, because she was the winner of that race. It was a blanket finish, and she just got her nose down on the wire first. And Mike, it really doesn't look like she's ever going to get there coming to the top of the stretch, because Trail of Gold veered in a little bit. She's in behind these 3 horses that are vying for the front end. But as soon as she gets out into the clear, she lengthens her stride and is able to run down the 2 horses that we just discussed, Grace and Grit and Mommy's Turn. All of that trouble that we talked about for Mommy's Turn, it was before we picked up this replay. You can see here she's hanging just a little bit, not able to put this away, and Trail of Gold picks her up at the end. But Mike, I want to give Trail of Gold some credit because she's drawn outside posts in just about all of her turf races so far. She's been 3 to 4 wide on the turns of all of those races and continues to improve on this surface. And she might actually save some ground here from post 3.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could, yeah, just maybe a good trip. It's not like she had a bad trip last time either. I think we should point that out. But you're right; she could get a little bit of a ground saving trip here, and you were right to point out that the last furlong of that race anyway. Once they got her off the inside, she really found some good late momentum in that race to close it down.
The number 4, Blossoming Erudite, as I mentioned earlier, she is one that's cross-entered on Friday at Saratoga, so we'll see where she ultimately runs. If she participates here, she's going to be a long shot, Mike. She's coming out of a victory, but that was when she upset a field going 6 furlongs. I know she's got a victory going a mile 3 back, but that was against much weaker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she has won around 2 turns, but not against horses like this. She was a big price when she won last time. She'd probably be an even bigger price here.
One of the more intriguing contenders in this race is the number 5, Charlotte's Heart, who is getting back on the turf for the first time since her career debut. And I actually pulled the replay for that race because it was a pretty impressive run that you probably want to remind yourself of from last summer at Saratoga, where she was towards the back early, out at the top of the stretch. You can see at this point, she still has a lot of work to do, but she really kicks it in through the final furlong to run this field down. And when going away at the end, Mike, they've tried different things since then. They brought her up to Canada to try the synthetic at Woodbine. Marcassi even experimented on the dirt last time when he brought her back to New York in the Bowery. She actually ran pretty well on that new surface, but there's a lot of pedigree saying that she's supposed to be getting back on the turf and arguably be best on this surface.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's maybe even a little surprising that that race we just watched there is the only turf start for her so far in her career. And it's not like, listen, she ran pretty well first time on the all weather too. So you understand why they gave her a couple of shots, a couple more shots up there in stakes races. But you're right. This is the surface that maybe she's bred for. The only time she ran on it, she was really, really good. Her half brother Casa Creed loved it up here. Maybe she will be the same kind of horse. She's a real wild card in here.
The number 6, Boston's Finest, has only tried the turf once in her career. That was 2 back in an allowance race at Aqueduct, going 6 furlongs. And Mike, she was a little wide on the turn. There was a point in mid-stretch where she was ranging up. She got a little bit cut off. It didn't feel like it really cost her the race, though. She just had to steady very briefly. She came back in a minor stakes last time, finished second. That was certainly a weaker spot than this one. I like her on the turf in general, and I thought early in her career she probably was a horse that wanted more ground. I'm just not sure you're going to get the price that you really should on her with Flavia Pratt climbing aboard.
Yeah, I know. It'll be interesting to see where she does land as far as the final odds go. To me, boy, I feel like, David, the longer I looked at her, I wanted to like her turf race more than I actually liked it. She's affiliate. It felt like she had potential early on. She never really delivered on it as a dirt horse. I thought maybe turf would make a difference. I'm not sure that it did. I don't know what to do with her now.
The number 7, Marvelous Madison, is a horse who has had some stops and starts in her career. She did win on debut last summer at Saratoga, going 5.5 furlongs, but her second start, Mike, total disaster in that Miss Grillo, and a disaster for more horses than just her, because she bolted coming to the quarter pole and took out a couple of runners that would have been factors in that race. They put her away for a long time after that. She came back in a new barn. This owner is a barn that I should say an owner that likes to switch trainers a lot, so no surprise there. She's now with trainer Bill Mott. And like, they brought her back in that Take the 8 Train stakes where she was lining up against some pretty good open company stakes fillies. And yeah, she faded a bit at the end after trying to chase the pace, but she arguably needed that spot, and now she's stretching out.
That's how I looked at the race too. I mean, and again, I feel like it's worth pointing out that was a pretty solid pace. It may not look like it on paper, but they were moving up front, and she was, trying to do a little bit of chasing in there, and you could just sort of see her get a little tired at the end of the race. Exactly like a horse who might have needed one off the layoff. Just looking at her pedigree, David, and listen, she's got to prove that she can handle 2 turns at some point here. But she's really bred to do it. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to worry about distance for her right now. My takeaway from her win up here first time out was, she won sprinting, but she might not be a sprinter. There was going to be a lot more to come from her. We'll see if she finally puts it all together here.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the pedigree, Mike. She's a half sister to No Salt, who could win going long on the dirt, as well as Shoddy, who could go marathon distances on the turf. And also, you might remember this, Mike. Chad Brown was trying to enter her multiple times last summer and kept getting rained off. And he was entering her in 2-turn mile and 16th races and just kind of jammed her in that 5.5 furlong race because so many races got rained off the turf last summer. So she's been meant to go long from the start. The number 8, She's Our Tiz, is a horse who's trying to cycle back into some top form that she achieved during her 2-year-old season. She ran pretty well in the Chelsea Flower when she finally stretched out at the end of last year behind Opulent Restraint, who came back to put forth a really good effort, just barely losing the Belmont Oaks a couple weeks ago. And Mike, her 2 races so far as a 3-year-old have been okay. She sprinted off the layoff, looked like maybe she needed that start. I wanted to see her finish a little better when she stretched out last time, but maybe she'll do better with those 2 starts under her belt.
Yeah, I was trying to stay positive on her too. I kind of liked her a little bit last year as a 2-year-old. I don't love either of her first 2 starts back this year, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm ready to totally give up on her. I did think she, could have run a little bit better last time. I know she got wired and she was never going to beat the horse that was on the lead there, just opened up on that field and kind of never gave him a chance. But I mean, this filly never made a race of it, David. And then she got out finished for second at the end, and I just didn't really care for that performance that much.
The number 9, Disco Star, is the other Mark Cassidy trainee in this race. And we'll go back to her last turf race to check out the replay of the Take the A Train, because there's an argument, Mike, that she ran one of the better races in here. There were a few fillies that got trips in this race, and she's one that made a 4-wide run around the far turn and tried to sustain that momentum through the stretch. It's really hard to sustain a half-mile move like that, and she flattens out a little bit at the very end of this race, but it's still a good effort. Also in here, that other gray horse between runners that's fading out, that's Marvelous Madison, who we already talked about. And Mike, we know the Disco Star is a highly capable runner at this level, sprinting on the turf. Whether or not she can go longer, I think it's a question that she still has to answer.
I agree. It's a really tough call too, because you don't know that one time they stretched her out, it was in the Gingerbread against Nitrogen, and I don't think you're supposed to be too hard on her for that one.
Yeah.
Her other turf races are all good, but they are also all sprints. If she can stretch out though, she's a big factor in this race because I think she's got some talent.
And rounding out the field, entered for turf on the outside, is the number 10, Carmen's Candy Jar, who will be trying the surface for the first time. And they've been trying to get her on the turf, Mike. She was entered for grass last time, rained off. They kept her in. She won that off the turf race. They tried to get her in another easier spot on the turf last week, was rained off like so many horses were. So now she winds up in the stakes race and drawing the outside post, trying a new surface for the first time. There are some things stacked against her.
Yeah, again, as you're pointing out, it kind of doesn't feel like this was the initial plan, but they're going to run her here anyway. She does have a little turf pedigree. I don't think it'd be a shock if she handled turf pretty well here and runs a decent race. She's run some good races on the main track. I didn't want to bet her in here, but I'm interested to see what she does.
Let's go to picks for this race. And Mike, where'd you land in this Suzie O'Kane?
I don't think I have anything that clever to say here, David. I'm just going to take Mommy's turn. You made her the slight morning line favorite in here. I know she's got some things to straighten out, but I just feel like she can really run here. We'll see if Jose Lezcano can get her settled here, get a better trip this time.
Yeah, as you can see from my picks, I don't really trust her because she's shown some concerning antics in the first couple of starts. But I agree, she's got the talent to win this race. Just at the price, I wanted to go for some better value. And I think the number 7, Marvelous Madison, some handicappers might view her as a horse that still has a lot to prove in this race. I think she's shown talent and hasn't really gotten into a race where she can build on that debut effort. I'm hoping this is the one now, second off the layoff, stretching out to a distance that she's supposed to handle, and potentially in a race where there isn't a ton of early speed signed on. So 7-3-5-1 for me and 2-9-7-5 for Mike. In the feature race on Wednesday, the DRF Wednesday race of the day, the Suzie O'Kane at Saratoga. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.